What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Angelo Carlos podcast. We are here with episode number 17, how to manage your one-on-one with your manager. So I wanted to make this episode because I understand how important this meeting with your manager is every week. It's basically how you can set up yourself for success. And I feel like I've gone through this meeting so many times at Google, at Meta, that I was able to really master it and really kind of get the most out of my one-on-one meetings with your manager. A lot of this has led to growth in my career, as well as to bonuses of about $1,000 from my manager just at random times because of being proactive with certain situations that have occurred during work and just try to add value to that. And I want to make this one for y'all, whether you're at an internship, whether you're at a job right now, you're trying to find a job, you've been working at your workplace for quite some time, you're going to manage a team, and maybe you could use this to help with how you want your one-on-ones with your employees or your people who are working for you to kind of make sure that that meeting, that 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it may be, one-on-one with your manager is effective with how everything works and with the way you want your team to be ran. So these are my 3 tips on how to manage your one-on-one with your manager. So let's dive in. And the way I'm going to break this down is 3 tips, like basically 3 structures and how I approached it. And then we'll go from there. So the first tip is number 1, when you're talking to your manager, ask how their day is going and if there's anything urgent you could help with. What does that mean? So your manager, they have a manager too, right? Usually your manager reports to a director, another hiring manager, or someone within like the executive suite, depending on how high you are within the company. For me, my manager usually reported to a director. Sometimes I reported to a director, just depending like how reorg went or who was hiring me at the time. So the first thing you need to do is ask them how their day is going. The reason why you ask how their day is going is because, one, you need to realize there's a humanistic aspect to each meeting you have. When you ask how their day is going, you kind of find out what's going on in their mind. You kind of read the room, right? For me, I could tell if my manager said, "Oh, my day was great. Hung out with my kids last weekend," or worked on this project. It was doing really well. Or they're usually saying, "Hey, I'm doing fine. Hung out, just happy," right? Usually you can tell that they're good mood or not, right? Sometimes there will be times when they are very short with their answer and you can read the room. Okay, they're probably stressed out right now. They might be angry at what's going on in the project. They might be angry at me, who knows? Or they might be angry at like something going on at home, right? The point of the matter is we're all human, right? And you want to read the room. That's why you always ask and start your conversation with, how is your day going? So that's the first thing you do. After you do that, I would just kind of like, if they're in a good mood, kind of poke and prod like, "Oh, what's going on here? Seems like this was fun for you." If they're in a bad mood, offer kind of comfort. "Hey, it's gonna be okay. I understand you're under a lot of pressure. I appreciate you still taking the time to talk with me," right? They feel that they're respected and heard. And that's how you kind of address those 2 situations. So next, you're going to, during that still part where you ask how the day is going, you're going to ask, "Is there anything urgent I can help you with?" Why is that important? The reason that's important is because a lot of times your manager will be given certain tasks, priorities given by their manager kind of before talking to you, or something crazy came up and then they have a fire drill they need to address and they need your help. So it's always important to ask, is there anything urgent you can help with? At Google, like there are certain things like AI was coming, right? So whenever there was something with AI related or with like, say, a strategy related that was super urgent, the business wanted to move to a new territory and want to make more money. Usually you're going to have to pivot really quickly, drop everything you're doing and help out with a certain project so the business can make more money or address anything urgent that's coming on board, right? Especially if you're in a high growth company, urgent things always change all the time, right? Usually there'll be a reorg. There will be some time where some new tech came up or some new territory needs to be looked into so that we can expand our business elsewhere, or you need to work with a certain team because a legal situation came up and you need to address the roadblock there, right? So there are so many times where urgent tasks, urgent things will come aboard and you will need to work with your manager to address it. And don't be scared like when those happen, right? Because it's normal. high growth companies where there is lots of innovation, lots of moving parts, where you're working with global teams, you will need to be okay with urgent things happening and you being put on that certain project, right? Because a lot of times your likelihood of success, if you execute well, will be beneficial to you, where you get a bonus, you get a raise, or you will be put up for promotion, where you can talk about your promotion, or you can talk about this certain project or kind of thing you did during this during your time at work, so you can kind of put that for your promotion documentation. Also, to when you have companies that are always constantly growing, this is kind of a sign of growth. So your equity, usually the value of equity, whatever you do, you will kind of appreciate, because any project you maybe work on may be very influential to the business and will allow your equity to rise because you help grow the business. In a sense, is what I'm trying to say. Which is, it's very hard to get those types of projects, but sometimes you are lucky enough to be put on that. A lot of people are fighting for those because they're high impact. You get promoted, and it looks good on the resume. So a lot of people are fighting for that. So that's one thing you gotta do. Is the first thing you want to do is ask how their day is going and ask if there's anything urgent they can help with, right? And I recommend too is, if you are a manager yourself, put this like when you go one-on-one with your team, right? Tell them, hey, this is how I want you guys to structure everything. That way they have a format, right? Because sometimes your team just doesn't know how to address things, and you need to coach them through this, especially if they're new in your career, new to the company, because there's so many ways they could do it previously, and there may be ways you want it done your certain way. So transparency, always talking to your teammates, always talking to your manager on how you want things approached, is your best bet to have a successful team. All right. So next tip number 2 is talk about any accomplishments you've done this week. Why is this important, right? And the reason I bring this up is because you need to be your biggest advocate at work, your personal career, your personal brand, whatever it may be. Because if you do not advocate for yourself, put out great things out there, no one's going to know what you've done. There's a saying that goes, closed mouths don't get fed, right? So if you've never asked for anything, if you've never put it out to the world, showed your manager what you're doing, they don't know what they're doing. You got to realize your manager, 99% of the time, has work that they're doing. They're managing 8, 9, 10 other employees, and they're trying to do a good job too in front of their manager. So any accomplishments you've done that week, or major accomplishments you've done for your certain projects or programs, you need to showcase that. You need to tell them, I have accomplished X, Y, Z this week, even if they're small, they don't need to be major, and give like a certain metric, give a certain kind of certain tangible evidence or something tangible you can show your manager to tell them, I've done this. When you do that, it looks favorably upon you, because it shows that you're taking initiative with whatever program project you have. You're making actual progress, and you want them to know that you're doing well. This is the key thing I've learned from one of my managers at Google, one of the best managers I've had. He always told me, perception is reality. I know it's not fair, Angelo, but perception is reality. If you have the perception that you aren't doing anything because you may be doing a lot, but you're not showing it off to your manager or people around you, your teammates, maybe they say, you're lazy, you're not doing anything. In reality, you could be doing so much stuff behind the scenes, people aren't seeing it, but because you're not advertising it or showing it off, you will not be recognized for your accomplishments. So the important thing for you is to always talk about any accomplishments you have. This is a little side tip, but for performance reviews, you want to have this thing called a brag document, right? And start this as soon as you get to your job, your internship, whatever it may be. A brag document, you're going to keep this like in Google Docs or Microsoft Word document. It's going to have all the stuff you have accomplished throughout that year, throughout your time at the job. And you're going to just have that. You just want a lot of it, right? And the point of this is that you have a lot of things to brag about whenever you go on to one-on-one with manager, whenever you go to performance reviews with your manager, whenever you go to promotion at a certain company, you want to have this brag document. So have that brag document, with all your accomplishments you've done throughout that year, but also like when you have a one-on-one with your manager, have that brag document to show that, okay, I've done XYZ at this time frame for this project. I'm doing well because we've executed here. We have done a lot for this certain project, and I've helped push the needle forward for these certain accomplishments, right? One of the best people I've worked with at Google, who went from L4 to L5 to L6 in like a year or two, was very good at this. What she would do is she'd have a list of accomplishments she's accomplished, right, on a certain document. Once she did that, she marketed herself really well to her manager, let her manager know, I've done all this, I've accomplished all this, I'm doing really well here. But she took it a step forward. She had a newsletter that showed off all her accomplishments and what she's done for certain projects or program to the entire business. And when you do that, you're basically showing off your work to not only your team members, but to the entire certain organization that she's working in, about 200 or 300 people. And people are like, oh my God, I'm used to getting emails from her. She's doing so good. So that way, when you go into promotion, people are more recognized who your name is, what you've done. And then you're more able to get promoted. You're more able to show off what you've done. And the reason you got to do this is that people don't know what you've accomplished. I know there's a saying, like, usually it's really cool to not show off, be like kind of like punk rock or kind of be cool at school by just letting people know you're cool. They don't got to know. That's a complete difference from corporate America. You need to realize that you guys show off. You got to do great work, right? Back up that great work with great marketing for who you are. Because if you don't back up that great work, no one's going to know about you, right? You got to think of it, right? You could be cool, right, on the stuff, but all these great companies who sell you these great products, they have great marketing, right? With Google, great marketing when it comes to their search engine, how you're able to get whatever you need. Tesla, they may not have a lot of marketing in the media, but a lot of their social media is really good with a lot of YouTubers, with a lot of people on Instagram, whatever it may be, showing off their product, right? Great marketing behind things, right? Facebook, Meta, great marketing growing your social network. Instagram, great marketing showing off your social networks. Things like this, right? All these great products have great marketing teams that are spending hundreds of millions, billions of dollars on marketing so they can sell you your product. What makes you think you're different and don't need to market yourself? Well, you need to market yourself to really excel in corporate America. So people know that Angelo, whomever you are, once you're up for a promotion, you had great marketing and showed off the accomplishments you've done. And they don't need to be massive, giant accomplishments. They just need to be certain things you've done throughout to push the needle forward, right? You can always kind of mess things up or make it sound a lot better than they really are, right? Of course, you want to have great work, but you can always market it to seem that certain thing you've done to really push the needle forward. So think about how you word things. Think about how you help your company go into new entry. For me, one thing I did was I really helped with like market entry, helped someone with market entry, building a plan of how a cloud can enter a new region, right? Help with someone with that, really focused on that. Another thing too is help with kind of getting remote access for some employees, right? Help with that. And I really marketed it really well to where like Enzo's doing a lot. He's a pleasure to work with. Let's make sure that he gets rewarded compensation-wise, right? So just really taking the time to talk about your accomplishments, what you've done that certain week, what you've done that certain year, that quarter, so that people are aware of what you've done and your manager knows that, okay, they're not just sitting around twiddling their thumbs doing nothing. They've accomplished certain things. I can go to bat for them for promotion or for when I do performance review at the end of the year. So that's one thing you need to understand. Next, you need to talk about, this is number 3, step 3. So of the 3 steps on Manager 101, talk about any projects you're currently working on. Ask what needs to be prioritized. Mention any roadblocks and ask how you can improve, right? So if you're not aware, usually when you intern, you're given 2 or 3 projects, right? And those are your like babies or your projects that you need to do well on, execute on, and push the needle forward, right? When you're working full time, you get 5 or 6 projects. So double. Sometimes even 8 or 9. I think there's times I had 8 or 9, and then I had like a group from like YouTube asking me to like work on things too. Like, wow, there's a lot of stuff, right? So what you need to do is you need to talk about the accomplishments, the projects you're working on. So tell your manager, I have, say, just for example, I have 6 projects, right? One's like cloud infrastructure, and another is like change releases, change management. Another is like vendor contracts. Another is entity creation, and then another is like I don't know, say something like YouTube creator fund. That was like one of the things I asked to work on. So like it's five, right? You need to talk about the projects you're working on. Give like 2 or 3 bullet points on the status of that, right? So status is I'm doing this, right? And then you want to mention any roadblocks. So say stakeholder from Texas on the legal team needs to approve this document for us to push expansion to this region, right? That's a roadblock. Can you help me? You ask manager, can you help me escalate this so we can get this forward? That's a roadblock. And then number 3 is you want to ask about like how you can improve, right? Say you've done certain things to help this project push forward, right? Where you create this document, you got approval from them, you work on the hardware or you work on the software edition of this, you work on internal tooling, and usually your managers may have times where you can improve, right? So for me, like for improvement, right, I built a lot of internal documentation, and I always ask, okay, here's what I created, how can I improve this? What can I do? And then you want to take that not criticism, but more so like advice from your manager and improve on that certain task, improve on that certain whatever you may have, like for that. That way you can show trajectory of growth, right? By talking about the projects you're currently working on, right? A lot of them, the way it works is that a lot of them are given certain priorities. They're P0, P1, P2, P3, right? And that's just priority 0, priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, right? P0 tasks, you get this seldomly, but they are just basically P0 is urgent. Like, drop everything, work on this right now. The business is going to fail. We need you to freaking do something or else we're screwed. P1 is like, this is pretty important. If you have nothing else that's not immediate urgent, this needs to be done too. P2 is like, all right, we're working on this. Like, make sure you're just pushing this forward. P3 is like, this is nice to have, but if you finish everything else, start working on this, right? So you have a lot of things broken down by priority, P0, P1, P2, P3, right? And that's how corporate America works, where you just have a lot of certain things you got to do, and they're broken down by priority, right? Most P0 tasks are given to you by your manager from a VP or a director, and they're like, hey, you need guys to get this done, right? A lot of tasks I realized, like at Google, that were P0 were like a lot of it was AI, because BART was coming up, as well as GPT was like taking over. So people were freaking out that we're going to lose this AI race. So really, I would start off by talking about the project you're working on. Talk about the P0 task, right? The P0 task that you remember that your boss told you this is urgent. So that way you're kind of starting it off, right? And then once you do that, like give a kind of update on how it's going, and then ask what needs to be prioritized, right? A lot of times, depending on your manager, P0 tasks will be changed to P1, P2, or P1 can become P0, meaning that just the priorities will change depending on how your one-on-one with the manager went, with their manager went, or how much progress you've done. Or say like there may be a reorg and then there's like a change in scope. And then when there's a change in scope, you basically have different tasks being assigned to you. So keep that in mind. And for most reorgs, they usually happen not because you're not executing, something's going to happen, but usually it's because like the VP strategy may have changed for the business, right? Where the VP is like saying, we have to reorg because this is more important now. So a lot of times you keep in mind that reorgs are a way of life in corporate America, especially in big tech. So keep in mind that when you have reorg, you'll have a lot of priorities change or products need to be changed. So keep that in mind. When you mention roadblocks are really important, because a roadblock means that you have a project you're working on and there's a certain person, stakeholder, or certain lack of information that we don't have that needs to be fixed in order for us to kind of push through with this project, right? For me, a lot of projects were global, right? So I was working with Latin America, Asia, Europe, so everywhere. And my roadblocks came because I couldn't get certain approvals from certain teams that were in different time zones. The legal team required so many approvals for certain projects or programs, so I couldn't basically push anything through. So when you have those roadblocks, it's always important to like write down who the stakeholder you have is associated with the roadblock. To write down what your manager can do to help that. And then 3, write down the goal of what's going to happen when we address this roadblock, right? 3 things, right? I already break down 3 things because that's how our mind works. Top 3 is just the best way to kind of formulate everything. So write down those certain things on those roadblocks. That way you can help address those situations, and those roadblocks won't bother you anymore when it comes to helping push a project or program forward. Always do that when it comes to those certain roadblocks, right? And then number 3, ask how you can improve, right? The reason you have to ask improvement is because you want to see growth in everything you do, right? You want to see that your projects, programs are moving forward. And when you have improvement, you can take that back, right? Think of it as like you're an NBA player, you're a professional athlete, right? I always view kind of corporate America as like a professional sports team, right? Where we're all friends, right? All good, yeah. But at the end of the day, we're all just here to execute, right? So you got to think of it. Mediocre players don't like to be coached on how they can improve. Good players like to just hear how they can improve, but great players, like they love to be criticized. They want to hear what they can do better. They want to implement there then and there. So like they want that culture. You want to view yourself as a great player. View yourself as like whoever your favorite athlete is or whoever you look up to. And they always look at places where they can improve. They see where they are deficient in certain things, and they want to get better. They want to pursue certain aspects or avenues for them to increase their certain skills, right? So if you need to get better with coding, ask your manager, how can you get better with this line of code, or how can I get better with coding? If you need to get better with business processes improvement, ask your manager, I can get that. If you need to get better with finances, with breaking down how certain projects or programs will affect the bottom line of the business, ask your manager, I can get better at that. If you need to get better with getting approvals or creating stakeholder management, getting better with stakeholder management, ask your manager, I can get better with that, right? Always bring things where you can improve. But the way I like to do is like mention something good about what you did with that certain improvement and then ask how you can get better, right? You kind of want to lead in with something good so that way you know that you're not completely incompetent. And then 2, you want to ask how you can improve because you want to show growth. You want to show that I've thought this through and now I value your opinion on how I can improve something. That's how you get better, right? You don't want to just say, I don't know how to do this, help me out, right? You want to show growth because at the end of the day, people help people who want to help themselves, right? When you feel bad about yourself and you don't do things to address your task or whatever it may be, and you don't help yourself out, no one's going to want to help you. But if you come with tangible things to say, with tangible improvements, you will get a lot better and you will achieve a lot more. So always come with ways to improve things and you can get better. So here's a bonus tip. This is for my managers who are watching this, because I've been in both, where I've managed a team and I have help with being, or when I was individual contributor who was being managed by managers. Number one advice I can give you guys is that praise, encouragement breeds loyalty. Fear and anger breeds discontent. What does that mean? So when you praise your team, right, say you did great on this, they like you more. They understand that, all right, I appreciate them. They respect me. They care about me. I'm going to work even harder for them. You do that, but then you also got to mention some things where they can improve on. Angelo, really loved your market acquisition process, but you need to do better with stakeholder management. I think you can do better doing this, right? You kind of lead it with like praise. Like, all right, bet. I'm going to do better now because my manager respects me. They think I did a great job here. I got to improve here, right? And 99% of the time, you're working with great people, especially at Google, especially at Meta, who are very smart and they want to get better. So when you give praise on certain things, but you kind of help them out, do better on another thing, they're more likely to respond better and excel for you, right? At the end of the day, as a manager, you're like a coach. You're like a coach of the team, right? The coach knows how certain players react, knows how certain people do well. So you want to make sure that you're helping your players strive for greatness and become the best version of themselves. Go back to where I said, where kind of like being very hard, crucial on your people you're managing breeds discontent. I've had where managers will yell at me, kind of cuss at me, and tell me I'm doing something bad. And there will be a time frame where like, okay, I'll try and perform better because I'm terrified of losing my job, or I'm terrified of getting another performance review that's not good from my manager that week. But it will start kind of playing into my psyche where a lot of times you start not believing in yourself because someone's yelling at you or telling you you're doing horrible, right? And a lot of it I understand too from a humanistic perspective where the manager is like in fight or flight, so they need to do something or else they lose their job and they get in trouble and they may get fired and they have a mortgage, they have kids, they have family that they need to uphold and take care of. So I understand that too. And I'm just trying to I'd like to offer like a form of help for managers who are managing other people so that way they understand how to basically approach a situation in a way where they get the most out of their team, and they'll excel. And I understand too, like we're all under so much pressure to do well and execute. So I understand things from both perspectives, right? So if you're ever looking to become a manager or are managing a team right now, praise your team, tell them they're doing well in certain aspects, and offer constructive advice on how they can do better on XYZ if you would need them to excel more in a certain process, right? And then try and lessen the anger, the aggravation, yelling at your teammates, because a lot of times when you start yelling or kind of berating your team, right, it doesn't look good on you, right? When you write review, when your team members or when your people you're managing write performance reviews back on you, they'll see that you aren't really you're yelling, you're not giving constructive criticism and you're kind of berating your team members, and then that looks bad on you, and then your director, your manager will read that too. So it's like this two-way street. Also, if you're trying to get your team to perform the best, criticism and harsh criticism, at least, where you're berating your teammates or the people you're managing, it will kind of honestly make them want to leave the team, and they'll apply for different jobs, they'll apply for different teams, and then you're filled with that headache of, oh my God, I have to get a new headcount, get someone new, right? Granted, there are times where you just have a bad employee and they just don't fit with the team, they don't jive with them. I understand that too, right? Not everything's going to work, right? At the end of the day, everything's just trial and error, trying to figure everything out, right? However, this is kind of the best way I learned from managing people as well as being managed by people, right? Best manager I've ever had at Google was someone who like was praising me and pushing me to do better and showed through example of what hard work looks like and of what you can achieve if you put your mind to something and do well. So that's kind of what I've learned throughout my process and time at Google, for managers, right? And I want to go into like what I've learned too is that when you prioritize your growth, you will be rewarded with promotions, with bonuses. Like I was getting like a lot of spot bonuses, like $1,000, or like peer bonus of $200-300, just for doing a good job and really helping people out and being kind. So that's kind of what I've learned throughout the process of being really mastering how to manage your one-on-ones with your manager, right? So that's been very beneficial, and I've learned a lot from that, right? With that being said, I want to kind of offer one last piece of advice, is that your career is whatever you make it, right? No matter what ups and downs you face from your manager, from wherever you are in your career, just know that you have an internal locus of control. Your manager is very important in your career, but they do not define you. You can seek out whatever team you want to work with. You can seek out whatever company you want to work with. You can seek out whatever project program you want to build, and your success is 100% dependent on you. There'll be people who come in and out of your life, but know that whatever ups and downs you may have, you can achieve whatever you want in your life and become that best version of yourself because you have that internal locus of control, which I truly believe we all have. Jello family, I love you so much. I hope this has been super helpful for you guys, and I hope you really learned a lot on these 3 tips on how to manage your one-on-one with your manager. This is one of the most important meetings of the week, and it is essential for your growth. With that being said, I believe in you guys. Accomplish whatever you want to accomplish in this life, Jello family. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We are growing so fast, and I appreciate y'all so much. Jello family, have an amazing day. Till next time, peace.